What's up, folks? Steve Harris at Low Class Media. Today, I'm going to show you how to remove the ECU on your 2023 Ninja ZX4-RR and give you my impressions on what it's like to ride the bike after you flash the ECU, slap on a new exhaust. Let's go.
Now look, if you're thinking about purchasing this bike or trying to, get out for a test ride on one, you may find that in its stock form, the bike feels a bit anemic.
But that doesn't mean that this bike isn't fun to ride in its stock form. I've got a whole other video with my first impressions about what it's like to ride this bike stock. And if you are looking to purchase this bike in the future, I do recommend going and watching that, and I'll link in the description below. But today I want to focus on literally just two simple modifications that you can do to very drastically improve this motorcycle. Literally just by flashing the ECU and slapping on an aftermarket exhaust system, you can increase the power of this bike by 50%. Not 15, 50%. And that's insane.
Oh, and I tell you what, folks, it makes a big difference. Now you may be thinking to yourself, Steve, is it hard to get your ECU flashed? Well, no. In fact, when I got into it, I didn't really know anything about it. But to demonstrate how easy it is, why don't we just go back to the garage and I can show you.
All right, folks, so let's jump into the ECU removal here. It's not a super hard job, but I think it just helps to give you guys a visual in case you're gonna remove your ECU and send it off to get flashed. Now, there's really not a ton of stuff to remove, but what we're gonna do is start with a 4mm hex key, and we're gonna move this, this, and this. So we'll start with this one here. As you can see, it has like a little plastic washer under there. Don't lose that. Same drill here, little plastic washer. Make sure you don't lose it. And then we'll complete this side by removing this one here. Don't worry about a plastic washer on this one. There isn't one on there. And then the next step is just to remove the same thing on the other side. I'm not gonna show that because it's literally identical. Next step is super simple. Just remove this 4mm bolt on both sides of the bike. Next, you're gonna take your key and just remove the seats. To do that, you're just gonna stick your key under here, pops right off, and then right up under this ridge here is a little cable loop. You'll just pull that, and the seat pops right off. So once you have the seats removed, you're actually just going to pop two grommets. There's one right here and the one up here. You just kind of push that away from the bike, and you continue to push, and then you'll see both of them release like that. And then you're gonna do the same thing on the other side of the bike. Pop the first one, continue up the bike, and then the other ones will pop loose, just like that. And you may have guessed by this point, but what we're really trying to do is give ourselves enough space to really remove the gas tank, because the ECU is gonna be up under the gas tank. And as you can see, by removing what we've removed so far, we have plenty of room to unmount the gas tank and pull it up vertically. Okay, this next step is something you want to be very careful with. Reason being is you're going to be removing these 4 bolts on either side of the gas tank, and this hardware is pretty soft and it's very easy to strip. I've already almost done that. I think the best tool that I'm using now is just a regular you know, angled hex key here, something with a real square edge. I tried to use some other hex keys that I had, but they just made me worry a bit too much. So I really am getting, you know, this hex key in there, really pushing down and making sure I'm using a lot of force in a downward motion before I twist them, because you really want to make sure these things are seated, because this hardware is pretty soft. But I would even consider replacing this with something better while doing this job. Once you have the tank loose, you're gonna move down to the left side of the bike. You'll see a couple vent hoses here. Crucial thing here, just wanna make sure that you get the right one back on next time. So go ahead and just use some needle nose pliers to grab these little clips here, and then you can pull them down. And then once you remove this vent hose, maybe just pull it up here, kind of hold it out of the way, that way you know that one's going there. And then the second one you can just kind of pull off here and let it hang right here. Don't lose that clip on the hose. Okay, once you have the vent hoses removed, I want you to go back under the seat. If you look here, there is a electronic connection for our fuel pump. And right here on the fuel pump, there's a little tang that you just kind of lift up with a screwdriver. I'm trying not to cover it with my hand, but get a screwdriver here, lift up that little tang, and then you should be able to just pull it right out. And then this wire is gonna kind of snake down in here underneath some of the wiring harness and under the frame. You're just gonna have to snake that out. So whenever we ultimately pull the tank out, this wire will come with it. Now, as we prepare to get under the tank and disconnect the fuel line, it's important to note that the tank is gonna move out and this way, right? So it kind of slots in up at the front. We're just gonna pull it out and back. But we're gonna go ahead and get under the tank and show you how to remove that fuel line. Okay, using a rubber mallet to kind of prop up the tank here, what you need to do is unclip this fuel line first. It's this red clip. So what you want to do is get your screwdriver. You go in and there's a little space right above the fuel connection. You just kind of get your screwdriver under there and you wedge it, and then it'll just pop up like that. And then you can just slide it right off the fuel line. And you will get a little bit of gas, so don't be alarmed. All right, just like that, the hard part is really done. Now we're just going to take the tank, being mindful of the fuel line and our fuel pump connection, which we failed to snake out properly. And you're just gonna remove the tank. All right, so with the tank off, we can see the ECU. We've got the battery here, but before we start digging into the ECU, we wanna make sure we remove the negative terminal for the battery. So we're gonna grab a 10mm socket and go ahead and get that off there. And once we get this removed, we wanna make sure that we pull it away and put it somewhere so we can ensure that it's not going to get back to the battery there. That should be good. And I'm gonna go ahead and put this back in just to keep it while we have our ECU off getting flashed. So here's the ECU of the bike. One final step here that we have to do to remove it is to get these two clips off for the wiring harness. So we're just gonna go ahead and grab our flathead screwdriver and do that. And really all you have to do is kind of slide the screwdriver up here and push this down. And then the clip will just roll right over the snap point there and really just kind of wedge itself off the connection. And then do the same thing on the other one, just kind of put your screwdriver up here in this little channel. And I'm gonna wedge that down. All right. And then there you have it, and it just pops right up off these little rubber tangs right here. And that's your ECU. Pretty cool. So now that we have the ECU removed, we're gonna go package it up and ship it out to Nate Phipps at Wheel Dynoworks. They've got some really great maps that they've been working on, and I'm gonna actually throw an M4 full system exhaust on this bike along with the ECU flash, and I'm just really excited to see what the bike feels like after the flash. It's definitely a fun bike in its stock form, but I think once we add the power that it should have come with from the factory, we're gonna have a lot more fun on this thing.
Alright, so we're back on the bike. We've got the ECU flash, we've got the new exhaust on it. So what does that really mean? Well, the bike is just simply faster. No longer does it really kind of fall flat on its face in the upper RPM ranges. When you get on the throttle and stay on the throttle, the bike continues to pull all the way to the red line. I tell you, it sure sounds a hell of a lot better. Now it's still an inline 4-cylinder with only 400 cc's displacement. So once you start getting up into the highway speeds, it really doesn't have that push, that a bigger bike will have. But these two modifications make this bike way, way more compelling. Now look, I can't tell you how much faster the bike is exactly. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just going by feel here because I'm really just trying to have some fun. But I can tell you that it definitely feels significantly faster.
But seriously, I was at a little bit of a crossroads with this bike, wondering if it was living up to my expectations in its stock form, and really wondering if I was going to keep it. But after performing those two modifications, I really put all of that worry to bed, and it really became more compelling to me as an owner, and
I'm keeping it, folks!